packet is usually available Tuesday afternoon, Mindy. So the contract will be available for everyone to see. But I believe that, I mean, not speaking totally out of turn, but I believe that we have a contract that both sides are only slightly disappointed in, and we should be able to come to an agreement and get this going.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree that an agreement is forthcoming. And as you mentioned, the scheduling quirks and all of that. And as I mentioned earlier, encourage the community to pay attention to our work session today, as well as the Saturday business meeting where we hope action will be taken on our side. I'd also like to point out, Jim and I were talking before the meeting, and I haven't been involved in direct negotiations for quite some time, but I'm reminded that sometimes when you get to a particular point, there's a huge breakthrough, and I think we've gotten there. Beyond that, nothing further to add.
Okay. I'll turn it over to Chief. Yes.
Just focus on going just on my everybody think your critique. Is it feasible just because there was so much prior to that to just give a quick read? Or should we just
We will move forward. This is being recorded, correct? Okay, so let's do a quick summary. We did a call to order, the Pledge of Allegiance, did our respective roll calls. We had several citizens of Sun River. Thank you for your comments. Mostly contribute about, or mostly comment on. Don't be tongue in cheek, Jim. Mostly comment on the need for a rules enforcement agreement between the two organizations. And again, I think you're seeing that we are having good breakthroughs and discussions there. Let me turn it over to Chief and to James. Is there anything that you'd like to say in terms of the process or where you are? And by the way, I just want to make a comment because it's not lost on me sometimes what the service district does or is responsible for. So Chief Rasick did a quick flight home yesterday from Washington, D.C. He was actually at the law enforcement memorial in D.C. as it was one of your El Nati officers, correct? Who was killed in the line of duty, was being enshrined there. And I don't know what that is like, but that weighs very heavily on me that the service district, both on the police and fire side, doesn't know what's going to happen before the end of the day. And I really thank our employees for what they do. Go ahead.
And I too would like to thank the work on both sides of the table. A lot of thoughts, and didn't always see eye to eye, but at the end, I suppose that's what negotiation. Very, very happy to announce that we do have something that both boards are able to evaluate and vote on very soon. And as kind of echoed in this room earlier, trust me when I say it is not lost on anybody sitting at this table that it is a shared responsibility between the service district and life. And we take that obligation very, very seriously. Chair Burke mentioned kind of a breakthrough in this contract, and what I see for me, a lot of the data that has been shared between the is information that is being input at a central dispatch location here in Massachusetts County. And we were able to work with them to make some changes to their software, evaluate data as the calls are conducted. And so that will be much more accurate, and it'll actually be a lot more transparent. Someone using that word for, and so we can, as I think this kind of time, increase the level of transparency and accuracy. And I think that is going to be vital to get all of conversations. And so again, really from my standpoint, again, I'm excited to it was not a matter of willingness. I think that you guys, I am honored to be great groups of people at the service district. And again, happy that we're moving.
Yeah, I share all those sentiments that everybody said. Just a couple extra things too, though, is, yeah, I think, both the SSD, police fire departments, SROA staff, there is a commitment to the community. So when we talk about negotiations, contract agreement, there's underlying the agreement itself. There's oftentimes, there's the business of the business. You have to work out the business aspects of anything. But underlying that is the commitment to continue to provide rule enforcement, safety, et cetera, for the community 24/7. So to that degree, this past year, the public service announcement for a lot of owners, so are you doing rule enforcement? Well, again, it's shared between the police department and SROA. Some things make better sense for SROA to do, and other things make better sense for the police department and fire department. Specifically, those things turned out here like in the middle of the night. But there were 1,200-ish citations issued last year. There is rule enforcement going on in the community. All that said, though, the goal is not to issue citations. I think that's what the police department and that's that goal is to seek compliance. We're not intending to be punitive. That's the last thing we want to do. We want compliance. The rules that are written seeking compliance and not seeking. So it's not looking at that as a revenue source. So that's not key. So again, I appreciate working together. I think we'll get there. But with regard to the SSD, from SROA's perspective, we have support of the SSD for police and fire because I think this community being a plant community, not being a municipality, very, very lucky to have their own fire. There's only, I think, one more in the state, Blackview Ranch. And then they have separate fire as well. So telling the owners, you're very, very lucky. And I think SROA, from our board down to our staff, recognize that too. So that's why, again, underlying commitment to provide the service. And
Right. And we'll open it up to questions for Chief and James. The one question I had, because it was mentioned, bike patrol is actually part of the rules enforcement agreement. We used to have two separate agreements, and part of the negotiation was actually combining into one. We've done some work on bike patrol even ahead of the contract. So can you give us a little bit of an update, Chief, on where you are?
And you're right. I think very, very highly. Last December 2025 was my first ever. And we had a bike patrol, as you'll see in my report later, that I believe set the standard for bike patrol service. And so to that, I am actually very excited with largely the work done by the Lieutenant Leader. We were able to scramble very quickly and reach out to some of those that have worked on bike patrol. And it is highly, highly likely that we will have at least 3 out by Memorial Day, and the 4th will be joining them very, very soon. So again, excited that we're able to put that together and continue with that level of service for this.
Okay. Additional questions for Chief or for General Manager Lewis?
But just a comment that last month would have been the normal joint meeting, and for a variety of unrelated reasons, we just couldn't get it together. It's kind of fortunate in a way that we can report out on the progress today. It's good that it was, delayed for other reasons.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah. The other thing that I would add is my understanding has been, having been part of our negotiating team, is that both sides had an opportunity to look at an outdated process for how we do this. And now we're in a position to be in a regular working environment and situation, increased communication. Both sides are interested in data-driven information that helps us talk to each other in the future. And it'll be more cost-effective and rational for both entities, in my opinion.
Continuous improvement gets you total quality. I had that on the mug somewhere from from my old business place.
Who wrote that book?
Well, Andy Rowe, Bill Daniels.
Right.
You were probably around for Breakthrough Systems, weren't you? Never mind. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I don't have a question, but I do want to thank everyone for coming back together towards closing this issue. I think we're on a very good path, and let's not make this a point in time. Let's continue to talk. Let's continue to work together. We're not in the same building, but we're certainly very close. We can always come over and bring donuts or whatever it takes, but let's keep talking on a regular basis, because the more we know about this community, the better we can serve the community, and we're both hearing different things. So, thank you.
All right, we can move on. We're kind of ping-ponging back and forth. So the next thing that we were going to go on to was pathway and road intersection updates. So this is more what's going on not only within Sun River, but also nearby in Sun River. And I was going to have James lead that. It's going to be Mark, okay. And I might be able to give some updates from yesterday or from 2 days ago. So we'll see, but go ahead.
My name is Marcel, Public Works Owners Association. I have nothing to deal with and work with fire, have that opportunity and that's a great relationship. It's nice.
Just,
So
yeah.
that being said, let's go ahead to the next slide. So there was a pathway safety task force that was developed about a year or so ago. If I remember correctly, there was over 60 recommendations of things to put in place. Some of those were more of a close time frame. Some required some planning, some required planning and budget assistance. So with that being said, I'll hit on a few of them. That sign you see on the left-hand side, there's about 25 of those out there. They went out about a year ago, but now we just updated them all. There used to be a siren on there because that was a part of our plan. That has actually changed. That's a little more focus on e-bikes. Those have all been swapped out for the last 2 weeks. Then if you see the one in the middle there, that one is key points, about 7 of them within Sun River, mostly the entrance points, and it talks about the key things you need to know. Like when you're coming in from the Caldera into the community, or when you're coming from the service property, so it hits all those key. And then the part on the right, if you see that little QR code at the bottom there, that is a map that was created within in-house, really, and it was all done through GIS. It's fantastic. And we're starting to use GIS and bunch in our work. Probably the first year, that was one of the first things we lined up. So you can keep that code, and everybody knows, most everybody knows Google Maps, Apple Maps. The pathway, it keeps trying to push you back to the road to actually move. Develop this, and there's 30 of these out right now. And anybody that's lost in Sun River, go ahead and click on that, and it shows you the location you're at. You go to the location you want to go to, get you all. So kind of it's a new thing, and it really seems to be working. And I see people out there on a daily basis that are out. And one thing, these things are live, so we're always going to be taking input, upgrades, all that kind of stuff. That being said, for the next one.
That is phenomenal, Mark.
Yes.
I know that was a big thing that the IT strategic plan was also driving, was more on GIS.
But something like that, because it is so live, but if there's doing work on
You're
what
taking
happens.
the thunder away.
I'll let you control your board.
All right. A couple other things that have happened here. Last year we tried a speed adjustment, mostly around Members Pool, Woodlands Gulf. There's like 6 crosswalks in there-ish, and then there's a bunch of places where people have where they want to go. And so we tried a speed control there that seemed to help and had make that happen. That happens again in June 15th through September 15th. And then this crosswalk, this is the exact crosswalk, but we'll be refreshing all the crosswalks since June, go to July. But between the 2 banks, there's now a push button light on the one that came out. So that was one of the key points. I could probably see more of those coming in, not inexpensive. That really helps out. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Hard. So this is, these are all the roads, and this is a GIS map, and this is all the roads that are being treated this spring. You can see the dates associated with there on the right-hand side, and then it's all color coded. But normally when we go through the notifications, we go through like 4 different touch points for every homeowner that has some associated with it now. But now we can actually circle those and say, hey, all these people here, not only are we gonna post on the road, we're gonna come knock on your door twice, but they'll actually get an email that's saying, hey, the work's happening. So that will actually happen through GIS through a location process. Then, if we have a change in date or weather, we're able to notify that way. And so let's say on June 4th, it gets rained out, and that's day 3, that we would skip and move that to the bottom of the list, but that would be this is kind of a feel for what's going on out there. Taking a lot more work on in-house in public works. So if you see some of those dig outs that are out there, and then anybody who comes in conflict, that's going to be unfortunate for the next 2 weeks, but then that will be solved after that when it's taken back. But that's kind of what we have going on there. And go ahead and jump to the next one. So this is our pathway maintenance program. So every year we do about 5 miles a year of treatment pathways. So this is where we're at right now, is 26, and you can see those are all highlighted. Here's where GIS is super helping us out, because a lot of times where people are out there using the app, they're trying to get from point to point, all of a sudden they get to a place pathways closed and we're doing work. I have tracked people down all the way to the shortcut road because it gets on their tires and they're really easy to find at that point. But with that being said, we can actually have this immediately when we turn this on. Everybody who's using the pathway system will see that we're working at that section. We'll give them an alternate route of how to get where they want. That's a huge communication. And that pretty much, the only other thing that I have coming up is probably a deal, and that's, I don't have a slide on it, but currently looking on the project and have that tunnel that's under there. It's in wetlands, it has diatomaceous earth, it has airport at the end of it, it's got everything you can possibly imagine. I think I'm just about to the point where engineering on it. The goal will be to go ahead and close that up, have that work September. When that happens, there'll be a road that goes onto the pathway, and there'll be the one-way lights. So that road will be closed, but it's also emergency fire, anything to do with airport stuff, right? You don't want to get people out there. So working around that will create that one lane jumping on the pathway, have a timed light system, sort of like we have on A and B when we did those circles. And I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 95% sure we just need the number back on the on Meadow Road or the pathway and safety task force. We may be moving Meadow Road, those kind of by the resort right there, if you're taking going down Meadow where the spa and everything is. Kind of still before that road may be a little bit because that road's going to get built. Keep the road enough that we'll be able to put a pathway. So that was a design. So that's kind of it from a public works, and obviously appreciate the support. Please fire on that, because whenever these things happen, if there's an emergency, we always work making sure that they. Any questions on this thing?
I know that you've been talking with Chief Booth on ensuring, generally when there's any construction, the first question that we have is, can we get a fire truck through? So I know that those conversations have been ongoing. That's great. And I think we probably could also have some conversations, just if there's a broader emergency need, what some other alternative paths might be, like that path on the river, but you can talk to Chief Rassick on that. Ready?
That's what you guys will be able to look. Say, hey, if we do it this evening, we have after that point. So I see that.
That'd be great as well.
And James, did you want to say anything about some of the road work that's going on outside of Sun River and and SROA's conversations with the county on that?
Well, I think what you're referring to really to the section South Century Drive, South Century Drive, Venture Lane, which goes to the business park. We said that's their.
Yes.
Yeah, 10,000 person in all of the county. And aside from the cars, what you have is all of them, right here, number of bicycles, and cross right there, back for business park, Sun River, all there up. It's a huge number, but the county, going back, oh my God, a year and a half ago, they've noticed that they were doing improvement of those intersections. They solicited for comment. It's the first time they solicited for more comment on these two intersections than anywhere else that they've ever been contemplating. SROA, we submitted substantial comments to them. What they did, to the county's credit, they came back and they modified their signs. So they modified those to take into consideration, in my estimation, the greatest extent possible to take into consideration SROA's comments. That was to keep new roundabouts at Spring River Road as far back from the possible, also within reason that start looking at the right of way, lots of utilities, not to bump up that possibility. They found balance. And at Venture Lane, you're looking at kind of like a barbell type of double roundabout. One of the big considerations was the crossings, the bicycle crossings. Vehicles, one thing. Related to vehicles, though, they did their best to provide access in both directions. So coming off South Century Drive, access into the business park goes in both directions, so you're not affecting proper. Then with regards to the bicycles, they've looked at things such as a tunnel under the road and do a variety of soils, and it's again that didn't work. So it's going to be surface level crossing. Again, crossing signs. So those, I don't know, Jim, if you know more on.
So as was reported yesterday, or I guess 2 days ago, in the comprehensive plan that the roads department put out, as they call it, the Sun River project actually includes the South Century at Huntington, South Century at Spring River, South Century at Venture. It also includes the bridge, the BNSF bridge that everybody takes in. And it does include the Spring River Bridge as well. And there's another proposed circle at Vanderbilt. All that. The Huntington, South Century, and Huntington, Spring River, and Venture projects are all approved. Will be going in the next 5 years, probably the next 4 years, at the cost of the county of about $10.5 million. So thanks to all the taxpayers of Deschutes County for that. The BNSF bridge is scheduled right now to happen at the same time in 28 as the Barbell Adventure. And I think they're already rethinking that, or at least they're trying to figure out how to get that timing to match a little better. And then the Vanderbilt Circle and the Spring River Bridge are right now deferred based on transportation tax fluctuations, but are probably 6 years out. So you'll see those in the 2031 range. That's what I got this week.
And just the two on South Century will be 28 or not 27.
The Spring River one is supposed to start, probably they'll be doing some work end of this year and will be broadly completed early 27, was what I heard from Chris. And then that leads into some of the Venture Lane development. So Venture would be 27, 28.
Just real quick, the reason why they're doing all of these is they think of it as a board and consistency in types of intersection improvements and consistent flow of traffic. But they have to do them individually according to timelines. If they did them all at the same time, it would be chaos trying to get Again, that's why they staggered. The goal is over like a 3-time period, they fix the whole corridor, and it is another.
Additional questions on that or comments? Where are we? So now we're going to talk about statistics. So police and fire statistics. I'll turn it over to Chief Resick, and unfortunately, again, Chief Goose and Deputy Chief Bjorvik weren't available, but I think we do have some things that we can report there.
Correct. Chief Boots, unfortunately, with the death in the family, and then actually Deputy Chief Bjorvik is the lead on the Central Oregon Wildfire School, where there's about 70.
If the community doesn't know, Rod Bjorvik, who's our deputy chief, is one of the West, if not the nation's best wildland urban experts. He teaches repeatedly on various topics related to that. He's on 3 federal task forces that are pulled in, and actually the district does get quite a bit of revenue from the chief, both Chief Bjorvik and Chief Goose as an executive. In terms of reimbursement for their work on wildfire conflagration. So it's very nice to have expertise like that when, like a couple of years ago, there's a fire bearing down on us. And so it's great to have that resource in the community.
Well, in addition to what you're saying there, we're really blessed to have those two here. And they're not two people that talk about how great they are, but to realize how they're recognized regionally and beyond our region. It's pretty impressive to have that level of expertise and experience
Absolutely. Here. Yeah. Turn it over to you, Chief, and to give us some statistics.
I'll try to be quick with this. Statistics, and some of you in the room may find this, but I will get through this and make it as the administrative component of the Sun River Police Department in 2025. We hired a total of 5 sworn personnel, myself included. We were also able, with the retirement of executive assistant, we were able to hire executive assistant Kobe. And for those of you, any of us in the room, or many of you in the room, had the opportunity to work with her, and she's amazing. Or created at the front lobby with likely Britain. As a cost-saving measure, the district decided to actually freeze the captain's position for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. And then later in the year, my decision to reclassify the captain's position to a lieutenant. I think that better suits the size and the scope here. And about that same time, we were able to promote Lieutenant Van Meter here, and an amazing addition to the administration. As I mentioned earlier, we hired our 6th seasonal bike patrol. At the same time, I mentioned that we had hired a total of 5 sworn personnel. The police department saw a total of 5 resignations, Lopez, in addition to 1 retirement. During 2025, I was able to serve as the chairperson, which is the Central Oregon. If you don't know, Deschutes County, in addition to Crook and Jefferson County, the leadership from each of those law enforcement organizations meets monthly. In addition, we share resources, services, and information. And I was honored to actually serve as the chairperson. And you are all probably aware how you're seeing more temporary police departments of technology, including drones. Drones make officer safety, officer safety, and not only that, it can aid. It will aid in rescue situations. We were able to select and certify 2 new operators, and so they are now fully functioning and will be a big asset to us, especially with summertime. The managerial component, the big one being, of course, we were able to relocate in. Thanks to everybody in the room part of that. The other big thing that I'd like to mention was our to complete the accreditation process through the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. That is a 3-year certification to ensure a standard of excellence. Then a lot of updating policies, updating training manuals. We had a really big push on social media campaign, changing the level of communication with the able to host the Chiefs of Police Small Agency Conference and provided some assistance and training throughout the region. The activity report, I don't want to go terribly into details. 7,100 calls for service. Majority of those were officer initiated activity. The majority of those officer initiated activity being about 500 citations. Sun River officers initiated 322 criminal cases, made 83 arrests in 20 different charges. In short, what this shows from a very, very high level is that this is a very healthy, motivated, happy to share those data. I mentioned earlier the service bike patrol and setting the high watermark service. They are a very valuable and tool pathway safety throughout the summer. 2025, again, I mentioned we had a total of 6 bike patrol officers reported nearly thousands made contact. They're here mostly, excuse me, from Memorial Day through Labor Day. Again, I'm very excited that we were able to, or Nation was able to get that back together very, very short time for 26. So lastly, from a personnel standpoint, is our citizen patrol. Everybody's familiar with citizen patrol. And a lot of what we do at the police department would not be possible without their help. From helping set up our community events through including those community events. Again, what we do here at the police department is possible. But in addition to just the community events, volunteers gave over 1,600 hours, and 800 assists to the public, 200 house checks. In short, Sun River is safer and is stronger. Volunteers care enough to show up. Thank them. And there's a couple of them here today. Get the opportunity, I will thank them. And then lastly, the community events. Mentioned earlier, our engagement with the community. I enjoy being out there and having face-to-face communication with the community. And in all the different community events where we're out there engaging with the residents, visitors, it's important to every police department. And in 2025, we were able to maintain that level of engagement. And I need to thank the Citizen Patrol and Bike Patrol for assisting, and have a whole list of the community events that people are with, from Kids Day in May and 4th of July and Coffee with the Chief and shredding events. And all of those not possible without the help of the board. So again, we were able to maintain that standard through 2025. We're kicking off that season now in 2026, and that started. Questions on any of the police operations?
In our environment out here, I'm just curious why you don't have any canine officers.
So
I got a story about that.
So, in my previous life, I was a canine for 10 years. And so there's different components to canines. There are patrol canines, which is most people think of. They're the ones who are going out and in higher risk situations are going out searching for that suspect name. There are also canines that can be used for scent detection, whether that be for narcotics or they can be used for, actually dogs can sniff out just about everything. But the truth is that the activity would have to justify the cost. Dogs are very, very expensive. If you're looking at a patrol canine, it's to get the officer trained and to purchase the dog. Aside from the modifications that would be made to the car, you're looking just the start cost is about $25,000. And it gets costly from there. You know, I love them. I advocate for them. If somebody wants to have continued conversation, I'm happy to look at some resources for that. But two, I have to look at the amount with those costs to be justified down this way, and I can't say that.
And I add one of the aspects of Central Oregon law enforcement, the Coles organization, is that we actually do have some shared resources. And there have been dogs in Sun River when needed quite often.
It's a great point. And again, you know, part of the regionalization, if there was a situation where we felt that the officer safety would increase, there was a situation where somebody was in a location, we could certainly call agencies that have one.
I know, for instance, we had a SWAT call about 18 months ago, I think, and there was, I think, 2 dogs at that one, including one that apprehended the perp at the end. And just for fun, if you don't know, Chief talked about they can detect pretty much anything. There is a dog in Deschutes County. His name's Cash, who actually is trained to scent electronics. So it can find USB drives, hard drives, other things. You know, when people want to hide their drug details, they'll put it on a USB drive and stuff it in a light socket or a power socket. And Cash is the latest Deschutes County canine, pretty useful tool that the county has.
Couldn't they help?
We need a flash for that.
Can we train porpoises to work the river?
River otters, or meaner. Yeah. All right, and then on fire statistics, Mindy, you said
Yes, sir.
you-
They're included in the packet for both boards, and if you have any questions, both chiefs are happy to meet with anyone individually.
the one, and sorry I neglected, the one thing that we didn't talk about was, and again, the statistics are changing. Chief mentioned it a little earlier. We actually got to Deschutes County 911 to implement a code, which is now active, I believe, that will allow us to identify a very specific homeowner call. Before then, we were using their statistics for, it basically fell into an other category. And I think in terms of that category, we addressed somewhere just south of 1,200 calls in 2025.
2025, 1,148.
So it's likely that as we clear out some of those other codes and we're focused on the homeowner code, that the homeowner calls will go down, but we will have a clear identification of what started off or what finishes as a homeowner rule. Things might start off as a homeowner rule and then turn into something else that that the police legitimately would need to otherwise respond to from a ORS or a law enforcement perspective. But we should be able to track those and provide reports a lot better. And I know that's been something that SROA has been asking for.
Their new software. They're using AI. I could listen to a phone call and do a lot of classifications.
So without getting into the weeds, actually, so everything in Deschutes County is centrally dispatched. And so when somebody calls the non-emergency line, they are not speaking to anyone here in Sun River, they're dispatchers of Ed County. And so when calls are input based on the person who's receiving the information and giving the information, that call can be classified as a lot of different things. You know, what it can be classified, the same call can be classified as noise complaint, a music complaint, neighbor complaint, or disturbance, or other, or code violation. And so what we can actually do now is to go in and I can train the personnel here on how to close that information, close those calls, and using the new data, not the data, but real. And we can better identify what truly is an HOA just a call and what that call. So it really isn't an AI component so much as it is a program.
There is some use of AI at Deschutes County. Actually, mostly on the outside. For instance, our new fire system alerting actually has AI voice. Kind of surprised the call hasn't come in yet. But it has an AI voice that will report out that is much more legible for the fire to understand, and it gets them out on the road a lot faster. Your turnout times have been significantly increased. We have fire in the room, so I'm just looking at JJ. Your fire turnout times have been, I should say, significantly decreased. You're about 20 seconds faster than you were the last couple of years.
That's great.
Yeah.
Definitely have better visibility.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
Do you think it would be advantageous to see the operations? It's a fantastic group of people. They handle fire, EMS responses at all.
If anybody would like to get a tour of 911, I can rearrange that. They actually have been operating in their backup site for the last year or so. They are doing the final move in back to the sheriff, or back to the site by the sheriff's office next week. Is what they told me.
I would highly encourage anybody on either board who doesn't know how these operate, how these calls are dispatched, because that might clear up some miscommunication that has been put out there about how things come in the police department versus fire versus overall. And so if it can be put together, I would highly encourage anybody to attend if you aren't familiar with it.
Actually, yeah, Chief, why don't you and I see what we can get out of Sarah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And the other thing, by the way, since I don't think either of the, well, okay, you get a few more crowds than we do, but the service district does boring government stuff, so we tend not to get a lot of crowds in. If anybody after the meeting would like a quick tour of the police and fire station, we'd be happy to do that. Just so you can see what your tax dollars are paying for. Sure, Dick.
I would have to go back and actually pull the data. That is an additional element that I don't have the information in front of me. And it can be, I'm trying to think again, David, again, this is a CAD and an RMS system that is owned and maintained by Deschutes County 911. And I would have to go in and just learning Tyler technology software that they're using. I'm sure that those reports are available. I would have to educate myself on exactly how to some of that information. But you know, I do get asked quite a bit. Traffic enforcement that's out on Spring River, the traffic enforcement that is out on the highway. Are we out there doing that? We absolutely are. Benefits this.
It's kind of on that a little bit. I mean, it's at night when you're out on Spring River, what are you finding on Spring River that we'd rather not have in Sun River?
Well, and to speaking to that, but to even a larger point, there is where I've had, whether it be something as simple as traffic enforcement or a DUI investigation, some sort of products related. I know that I would much rather have that happen on the perimeter and on your. And so that is part of that I would prefer my options on that. Having said that, at the time that I've been here, the message to the troops is and always will be Sun River first. If you're going to go out and you're going to do some traffic enforcement on this river, great. I want you in the community.
Right. Questions on statistics? I want to make sure we promised that this was going to be about 90 minutes. So I want to make sure we're flying through this. So I'll turn it back over to Chief for an emergency communications update. And we've got a couple of things in there. One is a new piece of technology that just got approved in our budget, and our budget got approved by Deschutes County yesterday. Mindy, you did a great job in presenting to the budget committee. The budget passed 5-0 with one abstention, which is required by ORS laws that we can explain later. But Chief, you can talk about some of the new budgeted items we have, as well as some of the things that Deschutes County's requesting out of us.
Right, the first thing I want to speak to is, the chair mentioned, approved full budget for an LRAD. It's a long range device. And what that is, it's actually going to use that, it can be used for search and rescue, missing persons, the big one being an event of an emergency evacuation. Now that Sun River no longer has the siren system, this is actually this device, one that we were looking at purchasing, has an auto range of about 2,000 meters, and is very, very clear. And so we can target our messages through this loudspeaker, for lack of a better term, to certain areas, as opposed to just a siren being sounded throughout the community and everyone kind of scratching their heads wondering what's. That is a safety tool that I'm a little surprised doesn't already exist in the region. I've been in communication with those at Deschutes County management and assured them that will be a resource that will be available to the region. And we will, once we have that on board, a great safety component for Sun River.
Okay, Bonnie, you had a question?
She typed in the chat that she's heard questions and concerns regarding the time spent outside Sun River, for example, Caldera. Will that information and data be reflected with the improved reporting capability?
Well, I think that I addressed some of that, and the information, the calls for service, whether they be proactive or are responding to that, that is information that is provided in the reports every month at our service district meeting. If there's, I guess we would have to have additional conversation if they're wanting something more.
Specific calls to Caldera and Crosswater are part of our annual statistics. They've been there for over a year, right, John?
Year and a half or so.
Yeah, Vice Chair Shoemaker was the one that asked about that, and Chief Lopez, while he was still here, implemented that. So you get statistics every month. We send the statistics monthly to SROA, as well as report them in the paper, and they're available in our packets. And so you can see how many calls that we and the sheriff's office are doing in the Caldera Crosswater area. It's worth noting that the sheriff's office has, I think it's fair to say, upped their game recently, and have been significantly visible in Caldera and Crosswater. It used to be we were doing 70% of the calls, and now we're probably doing about 20-25%.
Correct. And some of the information that we have discussed in the past is, whether you are responding from the Sun River Police Department or the Deschutes County Sheriff Department, message our police department are the same. And more police cars in this area,
Absolutely.
inside of Sun River or out of Spring River, is good for everybody. And I recently engaged in conversation with the sheriff, provide them some limited access to here, in the event that they, again, if they are as opposed to driving all the way up toward Bend or all the way back down, if there's something that they can come in, whether it's running a search warrant, and we want to be able to provide that and good for people.
Okay, further questions on that?
Just one, there was supposed to be an emergency test alert Deschutes County this week.
Didn't get it? You should have received it. And so, and actually, which is a great segue into my next.
sign up again.
So
is the
just
short
sign up
answer.
again.
Okay.
Oh, and then, and on that, you were gonna talk about the SR alerts.
So, Deschutes County Emergency Management, well, about a month ago now, and asked, there are two, us and Blackview are the only two districts in county that use push alerts that are labeled alert. And everybody in the room is likely familiar with SR alert. That is something that we've had in place since 2019. However, now, well, I'll try to be short with this. The county is trying to ensure that there is one consistent message that is made in the event of an emergency. And so what they're trying to prevent is Deschutes County Alerts goes out and puts out information, and maybe Sun River or Blackview or whoever else puts out some other information that might be slightly different or could be interpreted. So they're trying to see. They have asked Sun River and Blackview to change the label on those push notifications from Sun River alerts to Sun River information. Fire chief and I have actually looked at how that logistically could happen in Sun River. And as we dug deeper and deeper into this and kind of explained this to the county, SR alerts is so embedded in here that trying to market the system may not be possible. And so we're still working through the logistics of that. Wait and see where that goes. But again, if you are not signed up for these county alerts, that is a little more time consuming than just typing SR alerts into 888-777. You actually do have to go in onto their website and create an account. And that's really what the push notifications of this last week came out is, hey, make sure that you've got it. Don't have an account, get one set up. If you do have an account, make sure that all of your information is updated.
Okay, questions on that? But stay tuned, but obviously there's a fair amount of things that say SR alerts that wander through the Sun River communications stream. So we do want to make sure that we're tied in if there do need to be any changes on that. All right, Fire Protection Work Group, GM Lewis.
Yes, thank you. There's 4 pages in the pack. This is pretty good. On this. But just quick history, back in March of this year, the SROA board creation of fire protection. And the documents in the packet, makeup of that group, scope of work, and kind of the results. But we have to back up to SROA's strategic plan. One of the things that came out of that side of the talk a little bit later about something else was rule enforcement was fire protection. But yeah, fire here in Sun River. So strategic plan said we want to do as much as possible for Sun River safe and fire. So as part of that, our board had up considering the 2020 budget. They considered we want to create a fire protection task force, fire protection, make sure we're doing everything that we can to make Sun River safe, fire safe, and also to respect the desire of the owners. Plan. So with that, going back to the beginning of this year, we as staff working with the board trying to figure out what is the scope of it. Is it a task force? Is it work? What do we need to do? So we did some education right off the bat. Chief Booth speak to the board. We had representatives from Oregon Industry, State Fire Marshal's office to say, here what is done in Sun River, here's how we coordinate with SROA staff, fire department. That said, our board felt, okay, is we need to take a holistic look, essentially to evaluate what we do currently, what are we doing, what can we do better. We need new rules. Are there any gaps that need to be filled in terms of requirements in Sun River for fire protection? So with that, I'm just going to cut to the scope of work in the document, and it talks about this work group made up of owners, made up of owners, I'll talk about that in a minute. Will, again, evaluate existing rules, regulations, new rules that may be dictated from the state. Look at all of the internal, laboratory, protection plan, or protection plan that we have, all of the regulations regarding fire. Consider possible need for, new rules and regulations, new design manual elements, fire things like that. So essentially, this work group is going to get together. The beginning of this work group can be probably first few meetings very educational, to make sure that all of the owners participate, committee members, board liaisons, anyone that's participating in this has a sense of what we do today, what we're required to do, what we do, and then start thinking about what we do. So we're anticipating kind of a monthly meeting, and periodically what will come out of that as the chase, maybe recommendations to go to the board, recommendations on duty and store design best fire resistant the amendments to our laboratory reduction plan regarding the home hardening, the distance for landfill property. Looking at some of the shoulds in those documents and shalls instead of shoulds, that affects our enforcement requirement. Well, so cutting to the chase, the group, price of owners, the intent is to have resident owners, property owners, second homeowners, and then participation by others, some are teacher center, resort, village, they all have a stake in this. And then to bring in as necessary other agencies. So some of like what I talked about, or our marshal, U.S. Forest Service, to County, to make sure that we are getting the best information, so that as those recommendations come to our board, that it's based on the best information, and there are things that can be implemented in some of the on the back end. That's kind of a 30,000 foot overview. But again, that document's in your packet. It's available on our webpage as well. To that end, the liaisons and staff next Thursday, we're meeting to look at the applicants that we solicited for. We had 24 applicants. Good stuff to show participation. And again, with that, from staff, board liaisons, committee liaisons, like from our governance committee, and then other community side from. So again, holistic look, fire protection.
I will say one of the county commissioners pinged myself and Chief Bruce last week, the week before, talking about the state fire marshal requirements that were coming down, and he said, you know, it's very possible for service districts to declare that people need to respond to these rules, and I semi-politely told him no. So this is something that I think SROA does very well, and obviously as we need to help, let us know. But this is a you do a great job in the community of ensuring that, you know, the Sun River look and feel is still there, and that we're a safe community. And so again, let us know how we help, but take it away.
Yeah, and you touched on something that we know that I'll just throw this out there anecdotally, is we have owners that think we should cut everything down for fire safety, and we have owners that think we should cut nothing down for the aesthetic and the ambiance and the Sun River feel. And ultimately, what we try to do is provide balance. So any recommendations that come out of here, some of you can fire science, I mean, state rule requirement, some of it may be policy based. That's where our board is.
As James had mentioned, bringing in owners, I don't think there's room for all 24 because that can become unwieldy, but there is a great deal of interest, and it's consistent with the way we do business. We bring in owners on whatever strategic plans we have for their participation. Later, we might have people saying, how come the owners weren't involved? But we do seek that out. And the other thing I would say about that is we have liaisons from the board that will be participants. They are also now invited to the Newberry Group's Defensible Space Action Team, which I started attending a few months ago. That's chaired by Monty Demerel and Kathy DeBone. And it's so interesting seeing the 4 regions, what their different fire risks are, because it's not the same everywhere, but the response too in their initial attempts to get it going. And when I started attending, they were going like, wow, Sun River's the model. Different needs, different threats and all of that sort of stuff, but what you guys have already gotten going. So it's kind of fledgling for them, but there does appear a good deal of interest. And in the room, Linda and Dale are, and Brad are the current liaisons to the work group.
Good, thank you for your time.
The last thing I would say, and I think you touched on it, is again, emphasizing it is like we've done with task forces for years now, is to have the owner input. Then any recommendations come out of there for changes to design manual ultimately have to be approved by the board. Just like last month, we had changes to the design manual that proposed by our design committee. But the first reading, they're out for a 60-day comment period. So again, we will end up having owners forums on these issues, get as much input as possible. But just like anything, there's cut all and cut nothing, somewhere in the middle.
And sometimes the people that are cut all or cut nothing kind of filter out when they don't get their way during the process. You're right.
Or they just form their own group.
Yeah, right.
It's very sharp.
And the other thing I already, mentioned the local leadership and expertise we have with the fire department, but to add to that during our learning process at the board level is also recognizing Patty's. Yeah, she never likes to be identified.
He's hiding in the corner.
Patty as a local, regional, international. presenter.
International, yeah.
So we've got a lot to build upon with our partnership here.
And Bill has encouraged us as board members to be participating in the our protection, and then for example, are fine. And it was really, they've got some great ideas. That's that dialogue that works.
Just be careful, Kathy's a hugger.
She gets things done.
Yeah. All right, we have a couple other topics to do. Last year we put on a topic of coordination of external activities, and so we put that on again. If I recall, last year the big external cooperation that we did was around some joint communication to ODOT in terms of please continue to plow the roads and maintain the roads. James, I don't know if there was some. I mean, ODOT's probably still on the list, especially given what's probably going to happen next Tuesday. Given whatever happens next Tuesday, let's go that way. And but are there other activities where we'd want to do some joint coordination?
No, I think it's interesting. We talked about rules enforcement right up front on that, and everything else, like our work group, there's we made on many that may not be everyday evident. But I look at other things. The next item I want to go into detail on the transient lodging tax. Some of it pays a significant amount, so if it's any lobbying, things like that. The intersections that we talked about earlier, that affects fire police access, but it also affects safety for the Sun River owners, like bike crossings. And we monitor other legislation coming out of the legislature, or things that affect SROA from a standpoint. That again affect the service district. Rules that may come out of the legislature regarding fire, and that affects both of us. And then just overall, like such as the communications we're talking about. It's I'm going back, Chief before you were here, communications about the LRED system that we had.
Mhm.
I mean, again, I could read go on of things that we, over and above just the rules. So,
Yeah.
those are the things we look at every year.
Okay. Yeah, you know, if anything specific comes up, you know, let us know. Even in areas, sometimes I joked about it, but you know, on the Spring River intersection, I know that we were trying to push the circle one way or another, and you know, the public stance from the service district was, as long as we can get a fire truck through in construction, that's really all that we care about. But there was a lot of communications back and forth on, but realistically, we need to make sure that we are keeping Sun River intact and safe and the rest. So even if there's things that are obvious, we'd love to be able to figure out how we can either help it by your voice, and very clearly, if we need some help from you, we'll come as well. And then final item was transient lodging tax. So if those of you in the community are not aware, there is the state imposes an 8% tax that has come through 4 legislative actions on transient lodging, which would include mostly in Sun River. It's the resort, but there are quite a few rental homes, obviously, about 30% of 40% now. And so that transient lodging tax does get collected. Sun River itself, so the transient lodging tax in the unincorporated Deschutes County is slightly over $13 million projected for fiscal year 27. I can probably get you the exact number if you want. Sun River generates slightly over 60% of that. Sun River and environs, so if you include Caldera and Crosswater and other surrounding areas, actually generates over 70% of that for the county. You know, obviously Bend and Redmond collect a lot more, but that stays within the city. In the range of 5.5 million of that 13 million is automatically, no, I'm sorry, wrong. 6.5 million of that 13 million is allocated by law to certain things such as travel and tourism, which mostly goes to Visit Central Oregon. And again, if you'd like the whole breakdown, I can go pull that out of the budget books and show you where everything is going. There were some legislative changes made at the state this year that actually free up that travel and tourism money and increase the possibility of it to be distributed in other places. Deschutes County made the choice this week in their budget that they would not be doing any significant allocation changes for the fiscal year 27. There were some brief conversations around fiscal year 28 and what they might be interested in doing some of those reallocations. The specific one that came up in the meeting, because special service districts are now available to receive some of that. The specific conversation that came up was actually about a ladder truck or helping do that. Our ladder truck is the closest thing to Lapine should there be an emergency. And Lapine now has 4 sites, I believe, that would require the use of a ladder truck if there was a fire. We have 1, maybe 2 here in Sun River. And we have a ladder truck that supports that, but being able to help them get that is a county priority, and they've been trying to figure it out. I doubt it's going to come out of TLT, but at least there was a conversation around it. I would expect that in terms of joint coordination, that there probably will be more that picks up in the next calendar year, where there's going to be some discussions on that, but nothing anytime soon. Is the short answer. At least that's the gist that I got out of the county budget this week. We did allocate $100,000 for a countywide wildlife contract. That's a totally different thing, but at least there was some movement in TLT. And if you don't know, the unallocated TLT, a significant portion of that goes to the sheriff's office, which actually benefits everybody for protection. And another, they're still driving around. And another significant portion of that from the county actually goes to debt service for large building projects. There's $1.5 million every year that goes to debt service on the courthouse.
Was there any discussion about sharing the portion, the small portion that people that generate the money? Sun River?
There's always a conversation that goes on around that. The county will remind everybody. And by the way, this is not just a Sun River thing. I mean, it's a Black Butte, it's an Eagle Crest. Sun River generates a lot of it, but there's a lot of, hey, where do we get back? The county's response generally comes down to, this is a discretionary fund that the county has. We have the ability to allocate to dictate where the unallocated portions go. Thank you. Because they're always such an understanding organization. And then there's a lot of hands out for that in terms of where it goes. Their general response is, if private organizations are interested in the transient lodging tax, you can apply for a Visit Central Oregon Future Fund grant. That doesn't sit very well with me in one of my other roles, and it's a conversation that we've been continually having.
There's always the premise. Yeah.
Yes. And I will say, by the way, we do have to acknowledge that over the last 9 years, Sun River has received $8.4 million of transient lodging tax directly to the service district for various projects. Our training site first, and then $8 million allocated to this building. That's 800 to 900,000 a year. So we are getting our share. When there, and in fact, I was having a conversation with one of the commissioners yesterday. When there is a need and we can articulate a need, there is always availability for consideration of some contribution from the county. It could be TLT, it could be elsewhere. But they acknowledge that Sun River does contribute a lot and have returned some of that back. You're not going to get 7 million back. We are not going to get 7 million back, but it's always worth saying there's a need to go do this. Let's figure out how to do it.
And we are appreciative of the money. Resources. But when you consider the fact that it's been $50 to $60 million, 8 million is it at least?
It's a nice number, but it's not a great number yet.
It's not like it's.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
in participating with the Defensible Space Action Team, in looking at how we might compete with other entities in terms of needs, wants, and all of that sort of stuff, just speaking with the fire chief down there, he pointed out, we now have a 4-story structure, which is good for the community, but we don't know how to fight fire in it. And so I understand the logic and rationale on a brand new thing.
Yeah.
For them to have to deal with.
Yeah, there's the health building, there's a couple apartment complexes that are 3 stories or over. There's a couple other things that require a long reach down in Lapine that a ladder truck might do. And we do a fair amount of cross training with them so that, because honestly, if there's a fire in this environment, everybody available responds to it, including, by the way, a recent Sun River employee's house fire. Were we first on scene for that? Do you remember? Okay. You might not have been on, but we do make sure that we share that and share the training with it. But it would be really nice to see some of the other organizations staffing up so that they can come in and help us as well. And I think there's a question. So the 2 projects that were very specifically granted TLT, Ronnie, there's a training pad just, which direction is that, east of Sun River, that received a little under $400,000, and that was about 9 years ago. And then the building that we are sitting in right now received $8 million over 4, 2, and 2 over 3 years. All right. Additional questions on TLT? And is there anything else for the good order to come in front of the joint meeting today? James?
One thing that's very, that I'm going to introduce, we'll circle back to this, and is introduce Brett D'Alessandro, putting him on the spot. He is our new compliance officer hired by SROA, and second week.
It gets better.
He keeps coming back, so, I would say that's, compliance officer, yeah, I'm gonna commend our board because compliance officer was hired for a variety of reasons. One was in response to the strategic plan created by our owner, one of the high was rule enforcement. Some of that today from the owner. Also, it was, we have existing staff in our natural resource department, development department, that do enforcement of our rules every day, and I mean, every day. Workload, this is not a big, speak to the owners, the amount of non-compliance. Again, them working with this department in the past, there's still a number of issues that need to be addressed, and to help existing workload and just the commitment of our board at law enforcement, keep the livability, property values, et cetera, in the state. So again, I'm going to welcome Brett. He's ultimately going to end up as a more personal basis through some training issues. He has been with our existing staff from both of the departments I mentioned, and the magistrate hearing. He's attended just earlier this week. Task force rewriting our updating our full regulation document. So it's been rolling. It's not really and you're really thank you. So with that, I just wanted to give the reason why that you went up a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the opportunity for working in the community. I have a tremendous amount more to about the position, but to see possible, and I'm very excited, grateful to the opportunity. For the community and application. Like James earlier said, I echo the sentiment that it's not about just citing people and in citation. That would be a few. If it was so people, I don't think I would have stuck with it. So I know I have a lot to learn, but here and look forward.
That's good practice for our 11 o'clock meeting.
And then I just wanted to acknowledge on both sides of the boards, Directors Burke, Patterson, and Mobley, I believe, are all stepping off of the Sun River board. You guys, especially you, Keith, because I was on the Sun River board when you started. But thanks to the three of you for the work that you did on the Sun River board and all the effort that you put in. You know, obviously, there'll be three new ones coming on, and then on the service district side, Directors Kelly and Shoemaker are stepping. Director Shoemaker's terming after Kelly is just saying that he'd rather go run the paths a little more. And but we will have two new board members for the next meeting coming in. Our nominating committee is working on that. I think the interviews are next Monday. So appreciate all five of you and the service that you contribute to the community. And if there's nothing else, we can adjourn, and you probably got a couple hours of extra work that y'all are doing today.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, sorry about the technical issues at the beginning, not working last night, so.
Blame Microsoft. Yeah. And if anybody would like to tour the building, I'm happy to go do that. Okay.